Hey everybody, Nate here from WASD20. Welcome today as we are going to be making a Sorcerer for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Continuing our character creation series here. We're just a couple classes away from the end, so that's exciting. And yeah, so a Sorcerer. Let's talk about what a Sorcerer is. A Sorcerer, as you might guess, is a pretty powerful spellcaster, but it differs from, say, a wizard in that a Sorcerer has this sort of innate magic that can't be learned from books or from schools and other things like that. It is just sort of this inborn thing that comes from within, and sometimes it's rather unexplainable. A sorcerer's power could come from its bloodline. That's one option. A sorcerer's power could come from an event or an encounter of some kind. And sometimes the sorcerer, him or herself, doesn't really know where that magic comes from. But that magic tends to spill over in some sometimes uncontrollable ways if it is not used. And so a sorcerer does tend to take to the road an adventure, which happens to work pretty well with Dungeons & Dragons. So I have here a little notepad note with the order I usually prefer for character creation. I do determine the class before going into this, but I tend to start recording the stats with race, then ability scores, then background, then class, then equipment, and then perhaps spells, and in this case, yes, spells. So starting us off, we'll go with the race. The race today is going to be human. Nothing too exciting there or out of the norm, but going to be going with human. Humans in most D&D worlds are very common and a fairly dominant race. So it makes sense that a lot of adventurers out there would be human. There are some different ethnicities among the humans, and as I'm looking at them, I kind of like the look of these Rashimi. Most found in the east of the Inner Sea and often intermingled with Mulan, Rashimis tend to be short, stout, and muscular. They usually have dusky skin, dark eyes, and thick black hair. And they have some suggested Rashimi names here. And I'm going to go with Shalmar. And we'll go with some kind of family name here too. I'm not sure if Shalmar is supposed to be the family name, but we'll go with Shalmar or something simple. Lara. Shalmar Lara. There we go. So human traits. We'll skip to the statistically relevant part here on page 31 of the player's handbook. It says it's hard to make generalizations about most humans, but your human character has these traits. Ability score. Your ability scores each increase by 1. The optional variant rule would be that you can have 2 different ability scores of your choice increase by 1, and then also take an additional skill and 1 feat. And I'm actually going to go with those variant rules there, but make sure you check with your DM before you do that. So 2 of my scores will increase by 1. And I'm just going to put that over here, 1, because I don't know what those are going to be yet. Kind of depends on my rolls. And then an extra skill proficiency and a feat. And the feats actually start on page 165 of the player's handbook there, and you can look those over. And I'm going to look them over a second, and I'm going to take one of them. And a pretty common feat that I have never actually taken before is Lucky. And what Lucky does is it gives you 3 points of luck. And those points of luck can be used to re-roll a die. So if you don't like the result, before you find out the outcome of that roll, but after you've seen what you rolled, you can choose to re-roll. And so it's a bit of a risk there, not knowing if you're going to hit with that roll. But anyway, it's a really useful feat, and I'm going to go ahead and take that. So Lucky, page 167. You can read more about the Lucky feat on page 167 yourself, but I always just put the page number there and summarize so that I can refer back to it later. Alright, going back to the human race here, it says that age, humans reach adulthood in their late teens and live less than a century. I'm going to make my age pretty young here. We'll go with 24 years old. Maybe that's not that young in the worlds of medieval fantasy. I usually don't put too much thought into alignment until I've really played the character a bit and kind of figured out what they're going to be. But I'm just going to go with neutral. I'm going to go with true neutral. Yep, just true neutral. What a cop-out, right? All this physical appearance stuff I'll probably skip over for now. And we're just going to go to speed is 30 feet. Languages, so that I can speak, read, and write human, or common rather. So I'll just put languages, common, and one other language. And we're going to go with Dwarvish. Alright, now I have to remember to add these things in later, but we're going to move on from the race now to ability scores. So I'm going to get out my dice and we will roll our ability scores. So the way I usually do it is I grab 4 6-sided die and we're going to drop the lowest, and that will determine our ability scores. We're going to do that 6 times. So 4d6, here we go. The first one, got 5, that's a 9, not great. Oh boy, we got a 5. Oh, here we go. Now we're talking. That's 3 5s and a 6. So that's a 16. Okay, made up for that 5 there a little bit. Oh my gosh, not great. 6, 7. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. I got 2 6s, a 5 and a 4. That's a 17. Man, this is just the min and the max. 2. Okay, so that's another 9. And that's going to about do it. So I've got a 9, a 5, a 16, a 7, a 17, and a 9 for my 6 ability scores. Again, that was 4d6, drop the lowest. Don't forget you can also use the point buy system, or there's just the standard array of points if you want to keep things simple. Make sure you get your DM's approval for whatever method they prefer that you use. Alright, so the Sorcerer recommendations are that we put Charisma as our highest score, and Constitution should be our second highest score. So we will do that. We'll take that advice and do Charisma as a 17. And Constitution as a 16. And then after that we've got, we'll do Wisdom 5. Actually, we're going to do Strength 5. 9 and 7. We'll do the 9 here and the 7 there. Oh, that's right, I had 2 9s. Okay, I'm getting this all screwed up here. We'll do that. Okay, so that's going to be a 9. Alright, I think I got it figured out. I think I got it right there. An easy way to figure out our ability score modifiers is to subtract 10, divide by 2, round down. Okay, so we subtract 10 from 5 and we get -5, and divide by 2 and round down. So that is -3. Oh man, that's not good. Now I actually do get to increase 2 of them. I'm going to increase my dexterity to make that a 0. And I'll increase my charisma. We're going for it. 18 charisma. Plus 4. There we go. Okay, so we've taken care of our ability scores now. The next step in the process is background. So we will be turning to chapter 5 for the backgrounds. And don't forget, you can always look up custom backgrounds online. A lot of people have made their own homebrew backgrounds, and there's some really cool ones. Just make sure you check with your DM. But I like the idea of this person being a noble, and so we're going to go with that one. So the noble background is here on page 135. It says that you'll want to work with your DM to determine an appropriate title and how much power your nobility carries. And try to determine what sort of family are you from, etc., etc. So you want to think all that stuff through, and you don't have to figure it out necessarily for session 1, but it's stuff you'll want to be thinking about. If we skip to the more statistically relevant parts of the background, it says here that we get skill proficiencies in history and persuasion. So we'll check those boxes. Okay, so history and persuasion. And we'll fill in the modifiers for all these later after we do the class and get our other skills as well. One of the reasons I like to do background first is because it gives you a couple skills, and then you can select some different ones that aren't history or persuasion once we go to our actual class skills and we have a little more choice. Tool proficiencies, one type of gaming set. So we'll say chess. Sure, I am proficient in chess. And languages, one of your choice, so I get another language. We'll go with, how about this one? No, that's a little too risque. Let's not do that. Let's do a monstrous language though. Let's do Goblin. Somehow, who knows? That could be an interesting story. How does a noble learn the Goblin language? I don't know. Alright, so for our equipment we get a set of fine clothes, a signet ring, a scroll of pedigree, and a purse containing 25 gold pieces. So I just went ahead and put that right there. And yep, I've got a man purse. So what? So it says here that thanks to your noble birth, people are inclined to think the best of you. You are welcome in high society, and people assume you have the right to be wherever you are. The common folk make every effort to accommodate you and avoid your displeasure, and other people of high birth treat you as a member of the same social sphere. You can secure an audience with a local noble if you need to. So again, that's kind of a powerful thing that you can work with your DM on and kind of remind them that you have that feature. So we'll put that in our background. We'll just say, we're going to put noble up here. Now we're going to roll for our traits. For our personality trait, we will roll a d8. And we get to actually roll for 2 personality traits. Alright, so I rolled up for some of these characteristics here, and you don't have to roll for them. I actually rolled one and decided to re-roll because it didn't really make sense with another one. So you can always just choose them, you don't have to roll. But I take great pains to always look my best in the latest fashions. The common folk love me for my kindness and generosity. My ideal is family. Blood runs thicker than water. My bond, I will face any challenge to win the approval of my family. And my flaw, I hide a truly scandalous secret that could ruin my family forever. So as I'm going through this, I'm starting to think about the whole, that the source of my power might be through my lineage. If family is so important to me, perhaps there's something there in the family bloodline that is the source of this magical power. So that is our background, and now we go to class at last. Sorcerer. The Sorcerer class starts on page 99 of the Player's Handbook, and we'll skip to the class features here. It says that hit dice, we have 1d6 per Sorcerer level, so our hit points at first level are going to be 6 plus our Constitution modifiers. Okay, well, 6 plus my Constitution modifier is going to give me hit point maximum of 9. A whole whopping 9 hit points. How wonderful. We are not proficient with armor at all. For weapon proficiencies, we have daggers. We do not have any tool proficiencies. For saving throws, we are proficient in Constitution and Charisma. Constitution and Charisma. And for skills, we get to choose 2 from Arcana, Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Persuasion, and Religion. I'm definitely going to go with Arcana. That fits well with the Sorcerer. And maybe we'll go with Insight. I like that. It's kind of the ability to, figure out if people are telling you the truth, or a little bit of knowledge into human nature, understanding what makes people tick. Okay, now that I've gotten those skills figured out, I need one more skill proficiency from my race. Yeah, I think we might go with acrobatics. We're gonna do it. Sure. Alright, so that means we get to add our proficiency bonus +2 in addition to the relevant ability modifier to those ones we have checked, the ones we have darkened in. But for the most of them, we're just going to go straight up with the ability score modifier, so -3. I'm just going to go ahead and fill these out, and I'll skip ahead. Alright, so it looks like I've now got all those skill modifiers filled out, hopefully correctly, and we can move on to the rest of the Sorcerer class. So I'm looking at the chart here on page 100, and it looks like I get spellcasting and a sorceress origin, and then we'll pick our spells. So spellcasting, it says, an event in your past or in the life of a parent or ancestor left an indelible mark on you, infusing you with arcane magic. And I've kind of decided that I'm going to have it through the bloodline, through an ancestor, or 3 or 4. It says at first level, you know 4 cantrips of your choice from the sorcerer's spell list. So that's pretty good. Simply write in here that I get 4 of them. Spell slots. The sorcerer table shows me how many I get. So it looks like for first level, I have 2 first level spell slots. And I regain these spell slots after a long rest. If you're looking for a little more information on how spells and magic work, I highly recommend you go and check out How to Play D&D Part 3 and 4 for a lot more detail on that. For spellcasting ability, here on page 101, it says that my spell save DC is 8 plus my proficiency bonus plus my charisma modifier. So spell save DC 8 plus charisma is 4 plus proficiency is 2. So that makes for a 14. Pretty good. Spellcasting ability is charisma. Sure. Spellcasting class. My spell attack bonus is my proficiency bonus plus my charisma modifiers. So that is plus 6, which is again pretty good. And the last thing I need to figure out is my sorceress origin. So a couple options here. So it looks like the options are draconic, bloodline, or wild magic, and both detailed at the end of the class description. Now I think you can find others that have been published or homebrew, but I'm going to stick with the ones that are in the core book here, and we're going to go with draconic bloodline. So your innate magic comes from draconic magic that was mingled with your blood or that of your ancestors. Alright, and what this means is that at first level you choose one type of dragon as your ancestor. The damage type associated with each dragon is used by features you gain later. So, type of damage here. Tough choices. There's a bunch of them here on page 102. I think I'm going to go with silver and cold. Draconic bloodline. Silver. Cold damage. It says here I can speak, read, and write draconic. So I don't know if this fits very well with a human or if the book intends for this to be dragonborn, but hey, I'm just gonna go with it. This human somehow has very distantly some draconic bloodline mixed in. It also says that additionally, wherever you make a charisma check when interacting with dragons, your proficiency bonus is doubled if it applies to the check. So I'll just put here proficiency doubled. Alright, draconic resilience here. It says, as magic flows through your body, it causes physical traits of your dragon ancestors to emerge. At first level, your hit point maximum increases by 1 and increases by 1 again whenever you gain a level in this class. Oh, that's kind of nice. So I actually get 10, and I get basically an extra hit point at every level. Additionally, parts of your skin are covered by a thin sheen of dragon-like scales. When you aren't wearing armor, your AC equals 13 plus your dexterity modifier. Okay, that's kind of crazy. Perhaps, my back is covered with dragon scales, and this was a mark when I was young that I was going to be one of my family, maybe perhaps one every 2 or 3 generations. There is one that has this magical ability, and the dragon scales are a sign that that is coming. And I imagine perhaps my grandmother and maybe her grandfather also exhibited these features and were therefore sorcerers as well. Just spitballing here, I don't know. In addition to the extra hit points with Draconic Resilience, I get improved armor class here. Okay, so if you're not wearing armor in 5th edition, your armor class is just 10 plus your dexterity modifier. But it says here that with the draconic resilience, my AC is actually 13 plus my dexterity modifier, so that's pretty cool. So my dexterity modifier is 0, so it's just going to be 13. Alright, at 6th level here it says that I get to add my charisma modifier if I'm doing any spell that deals cold damage. So that's pretty cool. And at 14th level, I can sprout dragon wings. Yeah, dragon wings coming out of my back. Pretty cool. Alright, so that's going to about do it here for the class. The next thing on my list is equipment, and I'm going to stay in the class section for my equipment because I'm just going to be taking the standard equipment. I've already taken the standard equipment with my background, so now I'll take the standard equipment with the class. I could choose to forego all that equipment and just roll for my gold and pick all my equipment, not taking any from the background or the class, but I'll keep it simple this time. Here we go. I'm going to take a light crossbow. Actually, it says that I get here any simple weapon, and I'm thinking I might like a quarterstaff. I get a component pouch or an arcane focus, and I think I'm going to go with a component pouch. An arcane focus would be like a wand or a staff. And then I get a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. I'm going to take an Explorer's pack. And then I get 2 daggers. So I'll put daggers, dagger, and I'll put another dagger up there as well. Now let's go over to the equipment section and find out what these will do for me. So the quarterstaff, and maybe quarterstaff was a bad idea because my attack bonus is actually going to be -3 plus my proficiency, that's -1. Yeah, that's not so good. But we'll just go with it, and it's going to be 1d6 bludgeoning damage. No, actually I'm not going to go with it. I'm going to go with the light crossbow instead. Because a light crossbow will enable me to add my dexterity modifier instead. I don't know why that L is not showing up there, but we'll just go with this. There we go. Light crossbow. So my attack bonus in that case will actually be +2. It is my dexterity, then add my proficiency bonus to attack. I don't add that to damage, only to attack. So with ranged weapons, dexterity is the modifier that we use. Now, dagger. Fortunately, these are finesse weapons, so I could choose to use my dexterity bonus for those as well. And I will, thank you very much. And those are going to be 1d4. 1d4. Now I'm thinking that my daggers will be used for two-hand attacking, so I'm going to look up those rules real quick on in chapter 9 under the making an attack section here. We have two-weapon fighting. When you take the attack action and attack with a light melee weapon that you're holding in one hand, you can use a bonus action to attack with a different light melee weapon that you're holding in the other hand. You don't add your ability modifier to the damage of the bonus attack unless the modifier is negative. Well, that won't really affect me, so I add 0 to this one and I don't add 0 to this one. So I think it just stays the same. Now I could be wrong, maybe it is a -2 that the second one is supposed to be. But I'm just going to say 1d4 straight up. That stays what it is. I do not get to add my proficiency, I only get to add my dexterity bonus to each of these. So they're just going to be 1d6. I'll put a B here for bludgeoning damage and a P here for piercing damage on these two. Honestly, with some decent cantrips, I can't see myself using these weapons that often, but it's good to have backups. And you never know, there may be times when I can't use my magic. I won't go into it now, but you should probably look up what the Explorer's pack has in it and maybe record that, or just make a note, like I'm going to do, that it's on page 151 of the Player's Handbook if you want to find out what the Explorer's Pack has in it. A lot of useful stuff for exploring and adventuring. Alright, so we don't have to worry about armor at all. So we're going to move on now. If we look at our list, the last thing to do is to choose our spells. And I'm going to be super boring, and I'm just going to pick the spells they recommend in the book, because as I'm looking at them, they all actually sound like spells I would probably select anyway. So here we go. The cantrips would be, what I often do when I'm playing a spellcaster is I'll put the most useful offensive cantrip. I'll put that up by my attacks here, and so I'm just going to do that for Ray of Frost this time. It says a frigid beam of blue-white light streaks towards a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, it takes 1d8 cold damage, and its speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of its next turn. So that's kind of nice. With 1d8. My attack would be +6, because that's my spell attack bonus. (1d8) and target speed reduced by 10 feet. Alright, so there you go. I have a little basic info on Ray of Frost. I could also put Shocking Grasp there, which is another pretty good offensive spell. Alright, and you can see my other spells here. I've got Light, which creates light. I've got Prestidigitation, which is a really versatile spell that can do a whole lot of different things I won't get into here, but you can look it up on page 267. I've got Ray of Frost, of course. I've got Shocking Grasp, which is another great offensive spell. And then for my first level spells, these are going to be fairly limited use because I only have 2 spell slots. That means I can cast 2 spells a day from first level. They are Shield, which allows me to shield myself and increase my armor class, and Magic Missile, which is just a really good standard offensive spell, pretty powerful. Now I do have the D&D spellbook cards, so I usually pull those out for the spells I'm going to use, but it's a good idea to write the page numbers here. If you don't have spell cards especially, or write them up on a document. I will often use a Word document or a Google Doc with all my spells, like you can see I did here for my Warlock character. I just find them online and paste them into this document, and then I can have easy access to the full spell without looking through the book. Alright, so a couple of loose ends we should wrap up here. My initiative is based on my dexterity modifier, and so it's just going to be 0. Inspiration I don't get yet, but I will soon, I'm sure. Passive wisdom and perception. So this is based on our perception, which is -1. So what you do is you take 10 and add your perception modifier. Mine is -1, so my passive perception, passive wisdom is 9. And I think that about does it for our good friend Shaumar Lera, a noble sorcerer of the draconic bloodline. So, if you have any questions down below, I welcome them. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. What do you think of the Sorcerer? Have you ever played one before? Let me know. Lots more D&D videos coming soon, so make sure you're subscribed for more content. And happy gaming, everybody. Take care. You'll see me again very soon.